My mom gave my brother $15,000 at Christmas and said, "You're doing fine, you don't need help." So I agreed, and stopped funding the family emergency fund. 3 months later, Dad called in a panic. You ever felt that hollow thud in your stomach when you realize you've been played? For years, I was the good son, pouring my hard-earned money into what I thought was a family emergency fund. Then, one Christmas Eve, I watched my parents hand my brother a check for $15,000 from that very fund, and in that moment, my entire worldview shattered. My mom was tapping her glass with a fork, acting like she was hosting a corporate gala, not Christmas Eve in our tiny two-bedroom ranch. Before dessert, she beamed, "Your father and I have a little surprise." My younger brother, Mark, was halfway through his second plate of ham, already rambling about scaling his lawn care business. He always said scaling when he meant I bought another gadget on a payment plan. Mom reached into her purse, pulled out a white envelope, and handed it straight to him. "For your business," she announced proudly. "So you can really get it off the ground." Mark laughed, already peeling it open. "Ma, what did you do?" He slid the check halfway out, and I saw the numbers before he did, $15,000. My fork stopped dead in midair. "Whoa! Are you serious?" Mark breathed. Dad clapped him on the shoulder, a proud smile on his face. "You need a bit of help to get started. That's what family is for." I stared at the check, then at them, a slow burn starting in my chest. And then, it just came out. "Mom, Dad," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "you've never given me $1." The room went silent. A thick, heavy quiet. The TV in the living room was still playing some cheesy Christmas special. I could hear Ken on the screen, laughing. Mom blinked. "Well, you never needed it." Dad cut in, his brow furrowed, like I was the one embarrassing them in front of their own tree. "You don't need help, Will. You're doing fine." I looked at him. At Mark. At the little red notebook sitting on the sideboard, the one where Mom kept track of our contributions to the emergency fund. 6 years of transfers. Extra overtime. Skipped weekends. Saying no to vacations because we should put something in the emergency fund for your parents. Suddenly, something clicked into place, like a ratchet tightening. I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. "You're right," I said quietly. "I am doing fine." Mom visibly relaxed, completely misreading it as me backing down. Dessert came out. Mark immediately started talking about buying a new trailer and a pressure washer. But while everyone passed plates and argued about whether Die Hard was a Christmas movie, I already knew that night was the last time a single dollar of my money would ever go into that so-called family emergency fund. My name's William. I'm 35, a mechanic in Cleveland, Ohio. Single, no kids, small apartment, old Chevy pickup. For the last 6 years, I'd been the unofficial responsible one, the only person actually funding my parents' so-called safety net. And Christmas wasn't the first time I'd watched them use my sense of responsibility like an ATM for everyone but me. It was just the first time I was fully, completely done. Growing up, the rules in our house were simple, stark even. If Mark wanted something, it was an investment in his potential. If I wanted something, it was money doesn't grow on trees. We're 3 years apart, I'm the older one. As a kid, I liked taking things apart, just to see how they worked. My favorite place was Mr. Johnson's auto shop down the street. I'd ride my bike there after school and watch him pull engines apart like Lego. At 16, I got my first job changing oil at that shop for $8 an hour. At 16, Mark got a used Honda Civic with a bow on it because kids need wheels these days. When football camp fees came up, Mom sat me down. "We just don't have it right now, honey. Maybe next year." When Mark wanted a new guitar and amp, Dad swiped his card and said, "We have to support his talents." Those little differences didn't feel huge at the time. They just added up. In high school, I paid for my own phone by working weekends. When I forgot to send Mom my half of the bill once, she shut my line off. When Mark went over his data cap 3 times in a row, Dad just sighed and said, "Kids these days live on their phones," and quietly covered it. College was more of the same. I did a 2-year automotive tech program at community college, commuting from home to save money, taking classes during the day, working evenings in a chain garage, racking up certifications, paying my own tuition and installments. Mark tried college, dropped out after 1 semester, and spent the next year figuring things out on my parents' couch. When I moved into my first tiny 1-bedroom apartment over a laundromat at 23, Mom gave me a Tupperware of leftovers and a hug. When Mark moved into his first place at 25, my parents paid his security deposit, first month's rent, and bought him a new couch so it felt like home. Somewhere in my mid-20s, the family emergency fund idea was born. Dad had just had a minor heart scare. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to shake everyone. At the same time, the roof on their house was starting to leak. "We don't want to be a burden when we're older," Mom said at one Sunday dinner. So, we thought everyone chip in a little every month into a fund. That way, if something big happens, there's money for repairs or medical bills. It sounded reasonable. Smart, even. "Just $200 a month from each of you," Dad said. "It's not much. We'll keep it in a high-yield savings. If there's an emergency, we all know there's a cushion." I did the math in my head. $200 wouldn't break me. My rent was $750. My take-home pay, around $2,500. I'd have to skip eating out, maybe postpone buying new tires. But these were my parents. "Okay," I said. "I can do that." Mark stared at his plate. "I'm freelance now," he mumbled. At the time, his freelance was mowing lawns and doing odd jobs under the table. "My income is unpredictable. Let me get my business going first. Then I'll contribute more. Promise." Mom patted his arm. "We know you will, sweetheart." So, the family emergency fund started with one person contributing, me. It was casual at first. I'd Venmo Mom $200 on the first of each month with the note "emergency fund," and she'd write it into that little red notebook. Over the next few years, my career moved forward. I got certified as an ASE Master Tech. Started at a dealership, then eventually moved to a busy independent shop where the pay was better, but the hours were longer. My paychecks grew, but so did the commitment. "Can you bump your contribution to $300? Dad asked after a pipe burst in their basement. We had to put the repairs on a credit card. "We'll pay it off with the fund." "Sure," I said. "Then, just for a little while, could you do $400? Your grandmother's meds went up." Every time there was a reason. And every time I told myself it was just being a good son, just helping, just temporary. Mark, according to Mom, put in what he could when he could. I never saw a single transfer from him. By the time I was 30, I had my own small emergency fund of maybe $1,500 in a basic savings account and a used truck with 120,000 miles. I worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week, came home exhausted, ate microwave dinners, and fell asleep on the couch. But in my parents' narrative, I was doing great. So, when they asked me to take over paying their car insurance just until we catch up on the cards, I said yes. When Mark's rent was late and they hinted that it might be easier if you just pay directly so it doesn't get messy, I covered half. The unspoken deal seemed to be, I'd be the responsible one, the fixer, the silent safety net. And in return, I got what? A pat on the back at Thanksgiving for being so dependable. It wasn't that I expected equal treatment down to the dollar. I just never expected that the emergency fund I was told was for all of us would turn into Mark's personal business grant while I was still eating store-brand ramen 1 week a month. The pattern didn't show up all at once. It was like slow rust on a frame. A little spot here, another there, until one day you slam a door and the whole thing cracks. Scene 1, the water heater. I was 29, standing in my parents' basement looking at a 40-year-old tank leaking rusty water onto the concrete. The plumber said it's shot, Dad said, $1,000 for a new one. Installed. He looked embarrassed. My parents aren't flashy people. They shop sales, clip coupons, reuse Ziploc bags. Asking for help clearly hurt. Or maybe that's what I wanted to believe. Well, that's what the emergency fund is for, right? I said. How much is in there? Mom pulled out the little red notebook. After the roof and the credit card, there's about $3,200. Okay, I said. Use it. We were hoping you could, put in a little extra this month, Dad added. So it doesn't drain it so much. What are you paying now? I asked. $300, Mom said. You've been doing that for a while. Make it $500 this month, Dad said quickly, if you can. Just this once. Just this once. I went home, opened my banking app, and upped my transfer to $500. I skipped replacing the bald rear tire on my truck. When my manager pointed it out during an inspection, I just laughed it off and said, yeah, I know. Scene 2, the business. At 32, I was finally in a place where I could breathe a little. I had a small 401k through work. My personal emergency fund was a more respectable $4,000. I'd even taken 3 days off to go camping. Mark, on the other hand, had discovered entrepreneurship. Landscaping is seasonal, he told us one Sunday dinner, waving his fork like a TED Talk clicker. I need to expand into snow removal and power washing. I found this amazing trailer setup. It's only $12,000. With the right gear, I could triple my income. That's wonderful. Mom said. He's always been so ambitious. We were thinking, Dad started, cutting his meat carefully, since you're doing well, maybe you could loan him a bit to get started. Just a few thousand from your own savings, not the emergency fund. We don't touch that. It's literally called the Family Emergency Fund, I said, a bitter laugh escaping me. If anyone's starting a business, that doesn't sound very emergency. Mark rolled his eyes. It's an investment. You could even be like a silent partner. I already work 60 hours a week, I said. I don't need a side business, and I need my own safety net. If I blow my transmission, I can't do my job. Silence. Mom finally tried a softer angle. Honey, you know your brother. He just needs a leg up. You always land on your feet. I didn't loan Mark money. 2 months later, I found out at a barbecue that my parents had found a way to help. We scraped together $5,000, Mom said proudly, watching Mark show off photos of his new trailer on his phone. Parents have to support their kids' dreams, right? I did the math without meaning to. My emergency fund transfers for the last year alone were $500 a month, $6,000 total. Out of curiosity, I asked, where did that $5,000 come from? Mom hesitated. Well, some from the savings, some from the emergency fund, but we'll pay it back. It's all in the family. My stomach dropped. So, the emergency fund, I said, my voice dangerously calm, the one I've been funding, that's what you used? It's all of ours. Dad snapped. You don't own it. Don't be possessive. I shut up. I went home. I stared at my own bank balance, at my $4,000, and told myself it was fine. It's family. Scene 3, my own emergency. Last winter, during a snowstorm, I got rear-ended on the freeway. Nobody was hurt, but my truck's tailgate was crushed and the frame was slightly bent. Insurance eventually covered most of it, but there was a $1,000 deductible and a 2-week waiting period for parts. The same week, the shop was slow. Fewer hours, smaller paycheck. For the first time in years, I felt that old pit in my stomach, the gnawing anxiety of numbers that didn't quite meet. I called my parents. Listen, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm going to be a bit tight this month. Can I skip the emergency fund transfer just for 1 month, or maybe even borrow from it and pay it back when my tax refund hits? There was a pause. Dad sighed. Will, that fund is for real emergencies. I stared at my chipped kitchen counter. My truck is my job, I said. If I can't get to work... You should have planned better, he cut in. You know what they say, 6 months expenses saved, all that. We can't just raid the fund because you had a fender bender. The words raid the fund made my ears ring. I haven't missed a payment in 5 years, I said quietly. How much have I put in total? Mom rustled papers. Don't start nickel-and-diming. It's tacky. Roughly, I pressed. Around $40,000, she said finally. But again, that's not all yours. We've added when we could. I hung up feeling like someone had switched all the labels in my life when I wasn't looking. My emergencies weren't real. My money wasn't really mine once it crossed into their account. And then came that Christmas. By that point, my contribution was $650 a month. I'd bumped it again just for a while when Dad's blood pressure meds changed and Mom's car needed new tires. 6 years. $650 a month on average, plus the lower years and the extra $500 months. I sat down one night and actually calculated it. Roughly $47,000. $47,000 of doing fine and helping out and being the good son. So, when Mom handed Mark that $15,000 check for your business in front of the tree, surrounded by twinkling lights and the smell of cinnamon, something finally snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, more like a final, clean break in a part that had been hairline cracked for years. I saw my transfers in that envelope. My skipped dinners out. My bald tires. My missing vacations. And when Dad said, "You don't need help. You're doing fine," I realized the cold, hard truth. To them, my stability wasn't something I had built. It was a resource to be mined. I didn't yell that night. I didn't flip the table or demand they tear up the check. I ate my slice of pie. I helped Mom wrap leftovers. I loaded my truck with the same plastic tub of Christmas decorations she made me take every year. But when I got home, I didn't turn on the TV. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, my pay stubs, and a legal pad. Old habits kicked in. The same focus I use when diagnosing a weird electrical issue. Step by step, system by system. First, I opened my banking app and pulled up my recurring transfers. There it was, FAM Emergency Fund $650 monthly first of each month. I clicked at it, hovered over the amount for a long second. Then I hit Cancel Recurring Transfer. Confirmation popped up. Are you sure? Yes, I was sure. Next, I opened a new savings account in my own name at my credit union. I titled it Will's Emergency Fund because I have the imagination of a lug nut, but it made me smile. I set up a new automatic transfer, $650 a month, same day, into that account. Same money, same sacrifice, different destination. Then, I pulled out the little red notebook in my mind. 6 years, an average of $47,000 sent, give or take. I knew I'd never see that money again. I also knew that trying to get it back would turn everything into an ugly war I didn't want. So, I made a decision. Everything I'd contributed up to that point, I mentally labeled as gone. A gift to my parents, foolish or not. What I could control was what happened next. The last step was the hardest. I typed out a message in our family group chat, then deleted it 3 times. It felt petty to send anything at all. It also felt weak to just ghost the whole arrangement. I ended up writing an email instead. Old-fashioned. Clear. Mom, Dad, I've been thinking about the emergency fund. Over the last 6 years, I've contributed roughly $47,000. You've said you've added when you could, and I believe you. I set it up to help in case of urgent situations, medical, house repairs, etc. At Christmas, when I saw $15,000 given to Mark for business expansion, I realized our understandings of emergency are different. I don't begrudge helping you, and I'm not asking for any money back. Consider everything I've already contributed a gift. However, I will no longer be contributing to the family emergency fund. I've canceled the automatic transfer and will be building my own emergency savings going forward. This isn't punishment. It's me taking responsibility for my own future. I love you both, but I can't continue in the same role. Will. I read it twice. Made sure there was no sarcasm, no jabs, just facts. Then I hit send. The next day at the shop, between oil changes and a timing belt job, I made one more small change. A lot of my helping showed up as free labor. Doing brake jobs for Mark's friends for the cost of parts. Fixing Mom's car on my day off. So, I printed a simple sign and taped it up in my tiny rented garage space at home. Family and friends discount, 25% off labor. Not 100% off. It was almost a joke. Almost. The boundary was simple on paper. No more money into a fund I didn't control and didn't benefit from. No more free work as an obligation. Once those two levers were pulled, there wasn't a lot my parents could push without showing their hand. And that's exactly what happened 3 months later when my phone lit up while I was under a customer's Camry changing a starter. My phone buzzed 3 times in a row in my coverall pocket. I ignored it until I'd finished tightening the last bolt. When I wiped the grease off my hands and checked my screen, I saw 6 missed calls from Dad and 1 from Mom. 2 new texts blinked at the top. Dad, call me. Urgent. Mom, your father is stranded. I stepped outside the bay into the cold March air and called back. Dad picked up on the first ring. Will. Finally. My car is dead. Just shut off on the freeway. I got it towed to Jim's. Jim's is the chain shop he always goes to when he doesn't want to bother me, usually after he's ignored a check engine light for 6 months. They say it's the alternator and the battery. $1,200. I don't have it. I leaned against the brick wall, looking at the gray slush beside the curb. That sucks, I said. And I meant it. Being stranded is miserable. They said they can have it done today if I pay. So, I need you to call the bank and release money from the emergency fund. That's what it's there for. There it was. Dad, I said slowly. There is no emergency fund for me to release. He huffed. What are you talking about? You've been putting money in every month. I stopped in December, I said. I sent you an email about it. An email? I don't have time to read essays. Why would you stop? This is exactly the kind of emergency. I cut in gently. You told me that I don't need help. That I'm doing fine. Silence. And the person who did need help, I continued, got a $15,000 check for his business from that same pool of money. That was different, he snapped. That was an opportunity. This is a crisis. Different words, I said. Same account. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end. So that's it, he said finally. You're just going to leave me stranded? No, I said. I'm at work right now. When I'm off at 6, I can swing by, look at the car with you, and see if there's a cheaper way to do it. I can also set you up with a payment plan with Jim's or another shop. But I'm not paying it for you. He was quiet for a long time. This is petty, he said at last. After all we've done for you? My jaw tightened, but my voice stayed level. I'm not being petty, I said. I'm taking care of my own bills, just like you're going to have to take care of yours. He hung up without saying goodbye. Within minutes, the family group chat lit up. Mom, your father is shaking. Will, he could have had another episode from this stress. How can you do this to him, Mark, dude, it's $1,200. You make that in a week. Just cover it and stop being dramatic, Mom, again, this is not the time to teach lessons. We are family, I stared at the bubbles popping up, then typed one message. I'm at work paying my own bills. I offered my time and expertise. I'm not your emergency fund anymore. I meant what I wrote in December. Then I muted the chat for 8 hours and went back to the Camry. They ended up putting the repair on a credit card. Mom told me in a voicemail later, her voice wet with tears, that the interest is highway robbery and that if you hadn't stopped the fund, we wouldn't be in this mess. I didn't call back. A few weeks after that, Mark texted me privately. So, you're really done helping? I replied, I'm done being the only one helping. He sent back a meme of someone clutching pearls and then whatever, man. Don't come crying when they cut you out of the will. That one actually made me laugh. I couldn't think of a cheaper price for peace than hypothetical inheritance I'd probably never see. The first few months were loud. Voicemails accusing me of being ungrateful. Long texts from mom about family values and we didn't raise you to be cold. A Facebook post vague booking about kids these days abandoning their parents. I replied 3 times total. Once, I restated my boundary. Once, I reminded them I'd already given more than most people give their parents in a lifetime. The 3rd time I wrote, I'll always answer the phone to talk. I'm not sending money. After that, I stopped engaging with anything that had a $sign or the word help in it. Then, slowly, the noise faded. Fast forward a year. I'm still in the same apartment, but it feels like mine now. New couch, paid in cash. Decent tires on my truck. And my own emergency fund, a little over $9,000. I check it once a month. And then forget about it. Things with my parents are calmer. We still talk, but they invite me with Will, make lasagna, not come fix this. Dad works shifts at a hardware store. Mom shelves books at the library. Last Christmas, I went on the 26th with cookies and a small plant. No money talks. We watched a movie. Dad snored. Mom complained about the neighbors. It was normal. On my way out, I saw the sideboard. The red notebook was gone. Just a bowl with keys and coins. Driving home through the snow, I realized I wasn't waiting for them to say, "You were right," anymore. The real win wasn't them understanding. The real win was not needing them to. Back on my couch, I checked my savings. Not huge, not a miracle, just mine. Built slowly instead of disappearing into a black hole called family.